Well, hey everyone. My name's Randy. I'm checking in from Poway, California, which is a small town just about 20 miles north of San Diego. And this is my first attempt at doing any kind of documentary. And this is my first time out with YouTube as well, doing my own channel. This is all going to be fun. The subject of this is going to be the restoration of a 1979 Sea Ray, Sundancer 260. You can see behind me here. Well, the inspiration for the video actually came from a fellow that I ran into on YouTube out in Texas. You guys might know him on the YouTube channel as Frisco Jarrett. Well, Jay, if you happen to see this, all I can say is, brother, thank you so much, man. I mean, your willingness to share what you've learned and what you know with folks like myself, it's just kind of inspired me to try to do the same with my restoration project. So here's the boat. It's a 1979 Sundancer 260, and it's the hull's in pretty darn good shape. I've done exterior inspection on it, no holes. I mean, it's the hull's pretty darn sound. I found this on Craigslist, and I got it for a really good price. I had to get it for a good price because I knew it was going to have to be a project, because there was no way I was going to be able to afford to do a factory boat right off the showroom floor. I just don't have those resources available. So I got into it for a really good price. So I was very happy with the price. Setting on a 2011 competition trailer. Trailer's got a tandem axle, has a surge brake system in it that works really well. It worked fine when I towed it down to the house here. But the trailer's been modified a bit, I think, for this hull. A couple of things I don't like about it is the way that some of these support struts have been cobbed in here. Just really poor welding job there. So that's getting fixed. My brother-in-law is a pretty good welder. He's got all his own equipment, so we're gonna redo those support struts here and clean that up a little bit. But yeah, that's the boat. Title, registration, everything says 1979, but looking at the windscreen setup up there and some of the other things that are on the boat, almost makes me feel like maybe it's maybe in 1980, but paperwork wise it all says 79. So that's what we're getting ready to do. We're gonna jump into this with both feet and hopefully bring it back to its former glory, and really make a nice vessel out of her. Now, I have to say that this is a re-taping of what was supposed to be the first segment of the documentary, because I didn't like the way the first tape came out, so I'm kind of retaping it kind of after the fact. We're actually about 4 days, 4.5 days into the project right now, and we've gotten some work done. I'll post those videos up following this one. Yeah, so this is the first one, and so I'm looking forward to it. Well, okay, I said I got the boat off Craigslist, and I didn't know much about boats. I've driven a lot of boats. I've worked on boats. I used to work on tuna boats. I used to fly helicopters off the purse seiners, South Pacific, years and years ago. But I've never owned a boat, and it's something that I've wanted to do for an awful long time. And at this point in my life, it's just one of those things. Well, I just need to do it. I just need to do it. The decision kind of came by way of having one night I was out just chatting with a friend of mine, an old instructor buddy of mine, and we got to talking about life and things we've done, things we wanted to do, and the subject of the boat came up, and Dave, he basically reminded me. He said, "Yeah, Randy, you're getting a little older. You know, if you can do it, and it's something that you've wanted to do, then and you can do it, then just go do it. You know, don't die 3 years from now regretting not have done something. You know, so I thought about that for a couple of days and said, yeah, he's right. So Dave, if you're out there and you see this, thanks for pushing me over the edge, because here we are. Like I said, we're knee deep into it now. The boat came off of Craigslist, and I'd been searching for for a couple of weeks, looking at different boats. I'd looked at a Carver. That one sold up underneath me. Then there was another smaller boat, a Glastron. I saw that I liked. That was gone by the time I got there. Then the this Sundancer came up. So I kind of I wanted to move on this one as quick as I could, and so I started emailing the owner. Had a couple of phone conversations, and then finally agreed to meet. And so I went up to Newport, where the boat was at. Took my brother-in-law Jeff up there with me, and we did an on-site inspection. Looked at as much stuff as we could, and I knew at that time that it was going to be a big project. It needed an awful lot of work. The previous owner told me that it just needed batteries and a starter. It did, but there was an awful lot of other stuff that it needed too. He had told me that the mechanic that he had been working with, there was a dispute, some kind of a disagreement, and that guy wound up stealing the bimini top and stealing the batteries out of the boat, and so I'd have to replace the batteries. And then one of the starters was shot, and I'd have to replace that one, but he was going to give me a starter that he had just had freshly rebuilt for the boat. Well, then I really started getting into a lot more research and studying, and come to find out that, for crying out loud, the knucklehead had put automotive starters in the boat. I mean, in an engine compartment. I mean, come on, even I knew that. So that required having to go out and buy a couple of rebuilt marine starters for it. Got to looking at the ring gears, and I could see that the ring gears both of them were pretty chewed up. They were just old, worn out, so changing ring gears, well, you don't do that in the boat, so that meant the engines were coming out. So that kind of migrated to, we'll get into that. So the decision was made to pull the engines just for the ring gears. In the process of pulling the stern drives, I discovered that these were not alpha drives, as he had promoted when he sold me the boat. But that's okay too. Here, let's go take a look at the back of the boat. Gotta show you what I found. Okay, so to get the ring gears, I've got to get the engines out. To get the engines out, I had to pull the stern drives off. Okay, in the process of pulling the stern drives, I discovered that the port engine, the U-joint, the drive shaft assembly, was pretty corroded. There was some water inside in the bellows area. Well, what I'd come to find out was that that bellows in here had a hole in it, and so it let all the seawater in, hence the corrosion, which also caused the gimbal bearing to freeze up. That gimbal bearing is frozen tight. So I was thinking, okay, well, I can change that. I can change the bellows. I can change the gimbal bearing. I figured out how to do that. That wasn't going to be a problem. The starboard side is actually in pretty good shape. I mean, it's gimbal bearing is still good. No play in it. The bellows are still good. Everything works pretty good. But on this port side, okay, I had to. I wanted to pull the bell housing, the bell assembly off, so that I could have a closer look at all the stuff inside there, because I noticed a lot of corrosion inside there, so I wanted to get in there and clean that up. So I built a special tool to pull the pins out. And when I got this off, I had discovered that on these pre-alpha drives, there is a switch up in the top built into the back side of the gimbal ring here. And the purpose of that switch is, you can see on the bell where it makes contact with it right there, that's the cutout, the trim limit switch. So when you trim the stern drives out or up, it hits that limit switch, and that limits the travel for the stern drives. Well, the wiring for that switch was shot. I mean, the insulation had cracked and was broken. It was old, corroded. The wires had just basically broken away from the switch. So even up until that point, I had decided, well, let's just replace the switch. Now, the switches are hard to find, but I found some. And so I was going to remove the gimbal ring, and just kind of recondition this whole port side. Well, we got into it here, and through the steering pin, there's a bolt that goes through here. It's got a 1/4 inch cap bolt in there, and then there's another one that goes up inside the pin itself with a 1/4 inch cap bolt. Well, I don't know if these things have ever been off the boat. I know it's been operated in seawater, and I could not get those bolts out. They just weren't coming. I've tried heating them. I've tried different types of penetrating oils. I've even used mouse milk, which is an aviation product that we use. Super good penetrating oil. And these bolts are not coming out. They're just not coming out. If I got any more aggressive with it, I was afraid I was going to start destroying stuff, and I'm going to wind up replacing the gimbal housing assembly. Well, at that point, I decided that if I'm going to replace it, which I probably would have had to have done, I wanted to go with a more modern gimbal housing assembly, because I didn't like the idea of not being able to know what the position of the stern drive units were going to be in, as far as tilting them. I mean, I guess, I mean, you could play with them until you get the right ride on your boat and stuff, but being a pilot and being a control freak, and maybe just being a little anal about things, I wanted to see what position my stern drives were in. So I made the decision that I'm going to go ahead and modify these, and I'm going to replace both gimbal housing assemblies with Alpha 1 Generation 1 gimbal housing assemblies. The research that I've done has led me to understand, and I'll let you know as we get into it. That's the purpose of the whole documentary, right? How it works out. But I should be able to use my drives, they're MC1 drives. They're actually in really good shape. No problems with those at all. There's no corrosion, no water in the oil. They're actually, I think they're going to be just fine. But we're going to change this up. So with the gimbal housing assemblies, Alpha 1 Generation 1 going on the back, and I'm hoping to be able to use, I should know the next time I get into the boat a little more here, if my inner transom plates will work. That way I won't have to mess up, do any modifications, or it won't be as much work getting my steering set up. So life will be much better if I can use my transom plates. So anyway, those are coming off, and there's a couple of other modifications that I want to do to the stern that came by way of Jay out there in Texas. During his restoration, he did a complete transom replacement repair. So far, what I've seen, we got the port engine out already, and the wood so far looks pretty good. I'll know more once I get the transom plates off, but I'm bracing myself to have to do a big transom repair in the back. So you know, if that happens, it happens. I mean, it's okay. You know, like I said, thank God for Jay. I mean, he's prepped me with enough information and knowledge, and with my background, I think I should be able to get that knocked out. The other thing that I want to do is one of the things that Jay did with his boat, and I really liked. It made sense to me what he was saying, was that he didn't want to put any holes in the transom. He didn't want to have any access points for lake water or seawater to get into the wood and rot out the transom. You know, it made perfectly good sense. So what I want to do is trim tabs are coming off. The Mercathode stuff is all coming off the back here, and I want to build this up out in the back so that I don't have to screw anything in to the stern of the boat. I'm going to do some glass work and build this up out here where I've got some sacrificial wood where I can drill into that so we don't actually penetrate, you know, the stern of the boat right there. These brackets here are for the swim step that was installed. Yeah, there's a lot of teak, a lot of bright work on this boat, but as you can see, it's not bright anymore. But you know, the wood's actually in really good shape. We just got to get it cleaned up. But you can see that these brackets were drilled right into the stern, right into the transom, and I don't think they were sealed really well. I mean, I can tell it in a couple areas here where, you know, it looked like they used some kind of sealant. I don't know if that's 5200 or silicone or, you know, what the heck that is, but, you know, chances are it probably didn't seal very well. So I'm bracing myself for some transom work, but yeah, that's one of the mods that I want to do. The other mod with the Alpha 1 gimbal housing assemblies, I'll have trim position indicator switches back here, so I can wire some gauges up at the helm. And so I'm looking forward to the project. The engines themselves actually look like they're in pretty good shape. We're going to one of them is already out. So like I said, this video is actually kind of out of sequence. We've been working on it for a few days here, and I'll post those and some of the things that I did to get the engine out. I've still got the starboard engine. Still needs it's all unhooked. It's ready to come out, but the weather's been so bad the last couple of days. I haven't been able to get much work done. It's threatening again, as you can see. It's supposed to start raining a little bit later this afternoon, so I'm not going to be doing any work on outside here on the boat today. So I'll be spending most of the time here in the shop. Kind of got the garage, you know, partially cleaned out. I still got a lot of work to do in the garage area here to get it set up for doing the work that I need to do. As you can see, I've got we've got the port engine out. We got it out yesterday, and you know, that went pretty well. Here are the new gimbal housing assemblies. I found these on eBay, and yeah, they're both in pretty darn good shape. No corrosion on either of them. This one here is really tight. It's in pretty darn good shape. Only thing is, it doesn't have any of the bellows assemblies in there. This one's got all the rubber, all the bellows assemblies and stuff in there, but the steering lever a little loose. So this one is gonna be taken completely apart and overhauled. I'll probably bead blast that and prime it and reshoot that. This one here, I might just touch it up and just repaint it. It's actually in pretty good shape with zero corrosion on it. So we got a pretty good deal on those. Here in the course, once I got the project started, I picked up some extra equipment here for the garage. See, now I got a parts washer here. Got to clean the drum out and then replace the solvent in that. And yeah, bought myself a used bead sandblasting cabinet with vacuum system, or dust collector system on it. So I'm sure that's going to be used an awful lot during the project. Well, here's the starters that came off of the boat. These darn things they're just automotive starters. You look inside there, they're not plated, they're not sealed. I mean, it's just nothing marine about them. This one is actually a marine starter, but I'm not going to use it. I've got 2 rebuilt starters here. I've got ring gears up there ready to go on. What else do we got going on here? Oh, there's going to be a modification here on the to get the starter off. It's such a bear. I'm going to modify this plate here a little bit so that I'm actually able to get to the bolts for the starter. Because the way it's set up right now, you just can't do it. Here's the ring gear that came off. As you can see, some of the teeth are actually in pretty good shape, but there's some areas here you can see where it's really worn down. It's really worn bad right there, kind of bent. These are ground down almost to a nubbin right there. They're really worn out in this area. See, it's not nearly as sharp, squared off here. It's just all worn out, chewed up. So the ring gears are cheap, and so those are getting replaced. So yeah, that's kind of it. Let's hope it all goes well. I'll be posting updates as often as I can. Like I say, I work a week on, week off schedule, and so hopefully during my off weeks I'll have enough time to spend on the boat and just keep this thing moving forward, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you down the road here. I'm sure there's more to follow. All right. See ya.